There is someone watching this right now who plays video games 3 hours a night, collects things from their childhood, avoids serious conversations about the future, and lives in a kind of permanent comfort loop. And they are perfectly fine. There is someone else watching, doing the exact same things. Same games, same collections, same quiet avoidance, and something inside them is slowly falling apart. Same behavior, completely different psychology. The internet has a word for this: manchild, Peter Pan syndrome, emotionally stuck. But those labels hide something far more interesting than immaturity, because the brain does not refuse to grow up out of laziness. It refuses to grow up when growing up feels like a threat. And the difference between someone who enjoys their comfort and someone who is hiding inside it, that difference is not visible from the outside. It lives deeper than behavior. It lives in the reason behind the behavior. And what that reason is protecting might be the most honest thing you have avoided looking at in years. Now, if you are sitting there thinking, this doesn't apply to me, I work, I pay my bills, I handle my responsibilities. I am not a child. Hold that thought for a moment. Because functionality is not the same thing as freedom. There are people who go to work every day, maintain a household, manage money, and still carry a part of themselves that has not moved in years. Someone who has not had a real conversation with their partner in months. Not because things are fine, but because honesty might crack something open. Someone who keeps saying they will start the project, apply for the position, make the move, next month, next year, and the deadline never stops sliding. Someone who handles everything on the surface, bills, routines, obligations, but has not made a single decision about the future that felt permanent. That is not dysfunction. That is avoidance, wearing the uniform of a functioning adult. The question is not whether your life looks like it is working. The question is whether there is a part of you that quietly refuses to be tested. And this is where most people get confused. Because enjoying things from your childhood is not a problem. Nostalgia is not a diagnosis. Playing games, collecting things, rewatching the same movie you loved at 12. None of that is evidence of immaturity. People build real identity, real community, real joy around those things. The line is not about what you do. It is about what it does for you. There is a difference between reaching for something because it recharges you, and reaching for something because you cannot tolerate what you would feel without it. One is rest. The other is refuge. And to be clear, sometimes the game really is just a game. Sometimes the show really is just rest. Not every comfort is a cover story. But the brain knows the difference, even when you don't. Here's a quiet test. After 2 hours doing the thing you love, do you come back feeling lighter? Or do you come back and realize you were not resting? You were hiding. Does the thing fit inside your life? Or has your life slowly been built around it, not by choice, but by avoidance? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, that discomfort is not a judgment. It is information. If this is the kind of content that makes you stop and think, not because it tells you what to do, but because it shows you what your own mind might be doing, consider subscribing. This channel exists to decode the patterns most people never notice about themselves. So why does the brain do this? Why choose comfort over growth, safety over progress? Because your brain is not wired for happiness. It is wired for survival. And survival means one thing above all else: avoid what has hurt you before. If at some point in your life, maybe in childhood, maybe in adolescence, maybe as recently as last year, you learned that stepping forward leads to pain, rejection, or loss, your brain recorded that, not as a memory you can analyze, as a reflex, a wall that goes up before you even realize you have stopped moving. This is what psychologists call a psychological defense. The brain builds a comfort zone, not because comfort is good for you, but Because the unknown feels dangerous. And anything that asks you to leave it, a career decision, a real commitment, a conversation with no script, triggers the exact same alarm that was installed years ago. And this is where nostalgia becomes something more than a feeling. It becomes a retreat, not because the past was perfect, but because the past is finished. It cannot reject you. It cannot surprise you. It cannot fail. Whether you are 25 and scrolling through your phone, or a Gen X father replaying the same game you loved at 11, the pull is the same. The present can hurt you. The past already happened. So the brain whispers, go back to what is safe. That is not laziness. That is not immaturity. That is self-sabotage disguised as freedom. And the people caught inside it are not stupid. Many of them are sharp, creative, perceptive. Often the ones who were told when they were young that they had enormous potential. Which, it turns out, may be exactly what trapped them. Because here's the part no one talks about. The deepest fear behind the fear of growing up may not be responsibility. It may not be hard work. It may be irreversibility. Think about it. As long as you have not chosen a career, you can still believe you could be anything. As long as you have not finished the project, you can still believe it would have been brilliant. As long as you have not truly committed to someone, you can still believe the perfect person is somewhere out there, waiting. Potential is the most comfortable place in the world because potential cannot be measured. It cannot be graded. It cannot disappoint anyone. But the moment you choose, something dies. Not you. Not your talent. Not your creativity. But the fantasy version of you. The one that lives in someday and if I really tried. Growing up is not losing your freedom. Growing up is the moment you trade infinite possibility for something real. And that trade terrifies the brain because reality has edges. Reality has limits. Reality has consequences that cannot be taken back. So the brain whispers again, not yet, not this one, not now. Wait a little longer. You are not ready. The timing is not right. And you listen, not because you are weak, but because that voice has been protecting you for so long that it sounds exactly like your own. That is the mechanism behind procrastination that no productivity system will ever fix. It is not about managing time. It is about the fear of making your life irreversibly real. Let me ask you something, and be honest, even if only with yourself. What is the one thing you always reach for when the pressure hits? Drop it in the comments. Not as a confession, just as an honest answer. You might be surprised how many people name the exact same thing. Now, if something in this video felt uncomfortably familiar, let me be clear. This is not saying throw away the things you love. This is not saying nostalgia is weakness or that enjoyment is a symptom. What this is saying is something more specific. There is a difference between a child who plays and a child who hides. And inside many adults, there's a version of themselves, younger, more afraid, that is still making decisions in moments that matter most. That inner child is not your enemy. That part of you learned to protect itself when the world felt unsafe. It built walls. It found comfort. It kept you going when things were hard, and in some cases, unbearable. But that same part, the one that flinches before hard conversations, the one that scrolls instead of deciding, the one that keeps every plan vague enough that nothing can ever truly fail, that part was never built to carry your adult life alone. Emotional maturity is not killing the child inside you. It is recognizing that the child was never supposed to drive. It was supposed to ride along, to play, to imagine, to wonder, to remember, while the grown part makes the turns, takes the hits, and stays on the road, even when the road gets uncomfortable. The man-child label is easy. It fits on a thumbnail. It gets clicks. People throw it at Gen X dads in basements and 20-somethings on couches without asking what is actually going on inside. But behind it, in most cases, there's not a person who refused to grow up. There's a person whose brain learned, maybe very early, maybe through pain no one saw, that growing up meant losing the only safety it ever had. That is not a character flaw. That is a wound with a strategy still attached to it. So the question worth asking tonight is not, am I immature? The question is, what part of me is still trying to feel safe? And what is it costing me to let that part make every decision? You do not have to answer that tonight. But if it landed somewhere you were not expecting, maybe the next step is not a grand transformation. Maybe it is just this, noticing. Noticing when the comfort you reach for is not comfort at all, but camouflage. That is where it starts. Not with a lecture, not with shame, with seeing the pattern, clearly, honestly, for the first time. If this is the kind of content that helps you understand what your mind does when you are not looking, there are more videos on this channel that go deeper into avoidance, self-sabotage, and the hidden psychology of everyday behavior. Pick the one that pulls you. Your brain already knows which one it needs.